So this is what we're asking you guys to commit to. Tonight, we just asked you to be here as interested. You haven't committed to anything. Some of you said, yeah, I'm in, and I appreciate that, but I want you to be, to know exactly what you're committing to. So let's talk about dates. So if you want to write these dates down, I want to give these to you, just so you know. Okay, so the forum starts January 22nd. They're all on Tuesday nights, 6:45 for snacks, 7 o'clock we start. I need everybody here as soon as you possibly can get here. If you can get here before 7, that'd be great, because then we can corral the guys in so we can start at 7. We want to encourage, we want to live by example that we're all here on time, and we're asking our guys to be here on time so we can start on time. So 6:45 for snacks. We're going to have a food kitchen trailer from King's Riders out here that are going to provide dinner every week. And this is what I want you to know and you to encourage and communicate. I'm going to try to do that as well, is that they are going to provide a dinner, $5 to $6. So it's cheaper than going to McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. A full meal right here. So if someone's coming straight from work, needs to grab dinner and get here, encourage them, instead of going there, buy your meal here, because that money goes to missions. January 22nd, January 29th, February 5th, February 12th, February 19th are the forum. February 26th is the barbecue. Okay. March 1st through the 3rd is the events, Friday through Sunday. March 1st through the 3rd. And to put one more date on there, January 8th is the second Facilitator Training. It's a Tuesday here again. January 8th. So these are the dates that we are asking you to commit to. And this is what I want you guys to understand. We know real life happens. So you will be in groups where there's going to be 2, maybe 3 facilitators. 2 to 3. So you're not all by yourself. You are going to be able to team facilitate with others. Now the reason for that is, one, hey, my son just broke his arm. I got to run him to the hospital. Yeah, you do. I'm not going to make the forum. You got partners who can take over for you. I'm sick. I'm really sick. Okay, stay home. Get healthy. You got partners who can take over. My boss is making me work overtime. I can't get it off. I get that. And you got to protect that job because that feeds your family. So do that. You got partners. So you're committing to all the forum nights with the understanding that, yeah, you might miss 1 or 2 for unforeseen. You might even have something planned already, and you could talk to your partners and say, on these 2 or this 1, I already have obligations, I can't make it, and your partners will know ahead of time that you're not going to be there and plan accordingly. So we're asking you to commit to these dates, but we know that real life gets in the way. So if you miss one, that doesn't eliminate you. That's what I'm trying to get to. You say, well, I can't do all 5. I can't do it. No, that's not what I'm saying. You're committing to it. What I don't want to hear is, I was a little too tired and wanted to watch TV, so I didn't make it. Okay? Yeah, that kind of thing. I'm just not up to it tonight. You're committing to all of them, but when real life gets up, you're going to communicate with me, you're going to communicate with your partners, and then they are ready. Say, hey, James, I can't make it tonight. Thank you for letting me know. I have that in my noggin, at least for a few seconds. and your partners will know as well. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. These are connected here. So let's go with just a few gentlemen here. Billy, where do you consider church your home?
Christ the King in Arlington.
Kurt?
Cedar Home Baptist.
Mars Hill and Everett.
New Life Everett.
So 4 guys, 4 different ones so far.
Allen Creek, Marysville.
Mount Vernon, Christ the King.
Same.
CMA.
Judah Praise Center.
Here, Word of Life.
AC3, AC3,
24/7 Ministry Center.
Marysville New Life. Jake's House.
Judah Praise Center.
Emmanuel Baptist.
Arlington Assembly of God.
Merrill Gardens Free Methodist.
How many guys we have here, but we're extremely diversified. I mean, really, think about that. How amazing is that? That is unifying men. That's unifying a community. We're reaching all the way up to Burlington. Thank you, Scott. And at the events, we're going to have from Portland to Canada to Spokane, maybe even from Montana. Mostly from the Puget Sound area, but that's a pretty big area. But it largely is because of the diversity that you guys represent. It's not just this church or that church or this denomination. We have quite a diversity of denominations too. So we're going to break those things down. We want to get past those barriers that some of us have that others will come to our groups with. So part of our job is, in our breakout groups, go ahead and go to the next slide, Tim, is that there are 4 pillars to a successful group. Okay? The first one is that we need to care for the men that God brings to us. And that will look differently depending on your group. And keep this in mind. These are suggestions. All I'm doing is giving you some suggestions. You take them or you leave them. You take them and tweak them. Your group, we are not going to micromanage them. We're not going to tell you how to lead them. We're going to ask you to be great leaders, but you will be able to morph it to fit your group. You'll tweak it to your gifts and your talents. But the first thing we have to do is we have to care for the men that come. So the activity earlier, that was, you got a chance to get to know each other, but I wouldn't say that's really organic. You were kind of forced to do that. You were instructed to do that. But what if you had those kind of conversations naturally, organically, during the breakout group, after the breakout group, in between breakout groups? And the idea is, how are you doing? I'm fine. Really? How are you doing? Well, you don't have time. Yeah, I do. What's going on? And maybe you promise your wife, you need to be home by 10. Say, listen, I really care about what's going on, so let's make a date right now to have a cup of coffee. Because I made a commitment to my wife. We should understand that. But let's make a date right now for a cup of coffee or a piece of pie or something like that. Care for them. The other pillar is prayer. We have a prayer team, and we have a prayer leader, which is Chris Lewis. He's going to be our prayer leader through the forum and through the events. And he's looking for prayer team members who will partner with him to pray for the facilitators, pray for the H.U.G.E board, pray for the men that God brings. Because, there's 36 guys that said they would be here tonight. And I know the reason they're not here was because they got attacked one way or another. They got, busy at work. They got sick. One thing or another. So prayer for the facilitators, and that's including all of us. So if you are at all interested in that, Chris, would you just raise your hand? Chris Lewis, connect with him so he can get your name and number, contact, so that he can put that team together. Okay. So pray for your guys. Pray for their families and your family while you're away. Pray up to the forum, during the forum, after the forum. Also, God's Word. If we don't have God's Word in it, then what's the point? So we'll have 5 different pastors, each speaking a different week. And they're in random order. No one gets to know when they get to speak, because what we found is if so-and-so speaks this week, his guys will show up that week only. Or this guy will show up and they will only show up for their pastor. So they don't get to know. They'll be listed on the flyer and on the website in alphabetic order, but not in the order of the week they speak. Okay? So when they show up and see who's speaking, that's when they get to find out. So the only person that gets to really know is the huge board. Okay? So we want to encourage that people are here for the right reasons. We're not here to just listen to a certain person. God will speak through all 5 of these guys. And they will be using God's word. The book, Waking the Dead, is a guideline. It's a theme. That's all it is. They will use parts of the book or they won't, but they'll use their section as a way that they're going to use God's word. God's word is going to be in it, or what's the point? Okay, and the 4th one is service. Jesus didn't come here to be served, but to serve. You guys were invited here, and I'm glad you guys all came back in. But you're not here to be served. You're here to serve. You're here to serve. And if we really think about that, what an honor. Because the greatest man ever came to serve. Okay. Hold on. So we are here to serve. Before, during, and after. H.U.G.E is a year-round ministry. This is our playoff season and Super Bowl coming up. But we're year-round. So this service isn't, as soon as the advance is over, we're not done. So keep that in mind as well. You're not God's son just for 3 months. You're not a leader just on Tuesday. Okay. So service. Okay? So I want to do a Q&A as we go through this. Because again, these are suggestions. This is just my thoughts from my time, experience, prayer, putting it down on paper. So Q&A. Questions about this, thoughts, comments? It was just as it came to me. Okay? Yes? No, it wouldn't work. It won't work that way. You guys will later draw room numbers, and you're going to find out who your partner is. And the reason we do that is we don't want guys to go in breakout groups. We don't want facilitators to go in the same breakout groups because it's familiar. This is my buddy. We found time and time, story after story, if we just let you draw, God's fingerprint gets all over it. He puts people together, and all of a sudden he say, you know, there's somebody I needed to talk to, and he was in my breakout group. Wow. Or I partnered with him as a facilitator. So we're going to do that in a little bit, and that will get you into your things. But when we get to the advance, because we're talking about 500 guys, we're not going to have partners. We're going to be individuals. So this is what I want you guys to think about through the 5 weeks. There's 2 or 3 of you in your group. Each of you are eyeballing an apprentice in that group. Now, you 3 can't eyeball the same apprentice. Okay. You each have to eyeball apprentice that you would say, you know, Robin, I really love the way you have these conversations, and you I don't know if you know this, but you're a leader in this group. If you are considering going to the Vance, would you partner with me?
Sure, James.
Awesome, Robin. So when I go to the Vance, now I just invited him to go to the Vance, but he's also going to help me facilitate my breakout group at the Advance, even though he's not an official facilitator. He's God's facilitator at that point. Does that make sense? So you're going to have partners, which is really nice, because if you can't make a certain Tuesday, you got somebody. But at the Advance, there's a lot of guys. We can't have 12 groups. You're talking about 50 men in a group then. So we're breaking it down to 18, 20 men a group. That's the biggest we can go. Otherwise, it's not a breakout group. That means each of you are going to have your own group. However, find that guy. Find that leader that's in your breakout group and bring him up. Ask him. Encourage him. And say, I see this in you. What do you think? And if each of you do it, now you got a partner. Now you have an apprentice. And now you just built somebody up to be a leader for the future. You're building up men to build up the next man, to build up the next man. Leroy Ames, he wrote the book, Lost Art of Disciple Making. A man told him, he goes, you know, the greatest feeling is when you bring somebody to Christ. He goes, I have one better. When you bring somebody to Christ who brings somebody to Christ. That is the greatest feeling. Because you built them up, you partnered with them, that they are an advocate now. Okay? All right, so you need to establish your group dynamics. What is that's going to be in your group? Now, one I would say is overwhelming, everyone has, is confidentiality. What is said in the group stays in the group. It does not go to your wife. It doesn't go to another facilitator. It doesn't come to me, anything like that. What is in the group stays in the group, because why would they share if it goes outside that group? So what is said in the group stays in the group, and you can address it in the group. If it's something incredibly offensive or whatever, you and your group, we haven't gotten something like, something that's incredibly horrendous, but we'll have to cross that bridge. But I think you and your partners can deal with that inside the group. There's the Matthew process if there's something. But go back to care, prayer, God's word, and service. Everything you're going to do is in love. Everything you're going to do. If you're going to err, it's on love. Not on judgment. If you're going to err, it's going to be on love, on compassion, on mercy. Okay? So you guys set up your dynamic. So confidentiality's got to be a must. And your first week, the guys are going to be cold. And we'll have some icebreakers. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But they're going to be cold. They're not going to be sure. I don't know the 7 guys in this group, because they're going to be pretty diversified, because they're going to be drawing room numbers just like you will. And they're going to be in a group. But there's the blessing. They don't know it yet, but there's the blessing. They're going to meet guys that they didn't know they should have met. But it takes some time, and it takes trust building. And that trust is going to come from you. If it doesn't come from you, it's not going to happen. It has to come from you. Okay? So things like that, confidential, being safe, being transparent, being authentic. Now, if you want to set that tone in your group, who has to start with those criteria? That's right, yourself. If you're withholding, and here's my role, is you're as transparent and you're as authentic as your audience needs you to be. Not for you. It's not a therapy session for you. Oh, guys, let me tell you about everything. It's not a therapy for you. It's what they need. So you need to be extremely transparent. You need to be extremely authentic, because they'll open them up, then be so. But use your discernment. You don't want to overwhelm them going, boy, I needed a couch and a pain pill after that session. You don't want that. Okay? So those are things that you need to keep in mind. So I want you to be prayerful about that. But you're already wired this way. You know how to serve men. You know how to love on them. You guys. Okay? So shepherding. Go ahead to the next slide, please. 2 clicks. All right? Shepherding means you've got caregiving, you're building relationships, prayer support, resolving conflicts, meeting special needs, and listening skills. So let me just talk about each one of those real quick. We've talked about caregiving already a little bit, but just keep in mind, it's not just at your breakout group. They will know that you care outside the breakout group, before, during, and after. It's 9 o'clock, good night, I need you to go. That doesn't show care. Okay, building relationships. So authentic, organic is how I put it. Now, some people you're just not going to have chemistry with, so don't push it, okay? So I come up with Dan, hey, Dan, I keep trying to build a relationship, but he and I just aren't clicking. Don't push it, but I know that Dan is a certain way, and when I say, Dan, have you ever met Billy? And Billy, have you met Dan? Because they're wired together. They're kind of wired the same way. So you may not be that person to continue to build a relationship, but you're picking up on what kind of personality or what kind of gifts they have, etc. You're really into craftsmen. Let me introduce you to this gentleman, Wayne. or in music, and go back to Billy, something like that. So here's the thing. You don't just abandon them. You're going to at least carry them to somebody who can build a relationship with them. Okay? So, guys, I am asking a lot. I am asking a lot of you. But I don't think I'm asking you any more than what Christ is asking you. He's already done this for us in one way or another. But this is how we impact people's lives. If we're willing to go this extra yard, this extra sacrifice, it will impact men's lives. And if we impact their lives, their family's going to impact. If the families, their neighborhoods, and the neighborhoods, the community. And we will rock this area because we will sacrifice ourselves because God is asking us to. It does take a lot. But in my experience, the more you pour out, the more energized you are when you leave. I do not understand it other than it's God's economy. You'll pour out, and you'll walk away more energized. You're driving down the freeway, but your gas tank's filling up. That doesn't make no sense. But in God's economy. Okay? All right, now go all the way down the list. They were there. Okay, so prayer support, we're going to end, we start and end every breakout group with prayer, and you might want to ask, is there any prayer requests? But not just things, oh, this is bad, but praise. God moved in my marriage. My estranged daughter is back home. Whatever, so prayer needs, but also prayer praises. Right? Resolving conflicts. So you might have some conflicts within the group, and we're going to do a scenario about that here in a little bit. Meeting special needs. Okay? Somebody who's in a wheelchair or hearing or whatever. Think about what they need and put yourself in their shoes and then accommodate them the best you can. They might need the best seat. And save it for them. Let the group know that. Let's save this for Ralph. Because this is the best seat for him so he can understand us best. Then that group gets into that. Okay? And listening. That's the best one. If you listen, the rest will take care of yourself. So if you're thinking about if that should have been first, Kurt, that should have been first. You know. So listening. If you listen, and I like the proportion, how many ears do you have to a mouth? Listen at least twice as much as you speak. Now, as a facilitator, you kind of have to generate conversation. But listen. Even in the silence. Listen. Okay? Q&A. Questions? Oh, none? Come on. Okay. Even though I'm fumbling over my words. All right. Next slide. Now, what this is about is reach and teach. Wow, that's a great slide. So the vision here is we want to multiply. Now, I want people to understand that no one's getting a paycheck. No one's getting commission. You know, hey, if we get 100 guys, I get this certain kind of paycheck commission. Or 1,000 guys get, you know, or we get sponsors and advertisers. None of that. None of that is coming in. Why do we want 500 guys or 600 guys or 1,000 guys? Because every one of those numbers is a soul. Every one of them is a name. You want to impact them. That's right. That's why we want to reach the numbers. Now, we're not the only name of the game. I mean, there's amazing ministries out there that are reaching people. But this is what God's calling us to be a part of, and that's what God has invited you to be here. So if we get 400, 500, 1,000 connections, that's a name. It's not the number. The number represents a name. And, you know, like Moses could not handle the 2 million people. You got to get the Jethro in there. You got to delegate. You guys are the amazing soldiers. You guys are the ones who are in the front lines. You guys are the ones who are going to make the difference. Because you're going to be face to face. You're going to have the conversation, and you're going to be the one that takes the time to listen. That will make an impact. And we have men here who were impacted on a previous forum or events because someone sat face to face with them. Who sat face to face with the guy prior to the year? Who sat face to face prior to that? We had the legacy started. So we need to be a part of that. So multiplication. So groups are an organism, and they should grow, and they grow through relationships and invitations. So are we not up? Okay. All right. So anyway, the idea of multiplication, so the relationship building and invitation. So feel free to invite. Feel free to invite to the forum. Feel free to invite to the Advance. So how many were at the Advance last year? How many keep your hands up if you're glad you were there. How many of you wish you had invited several friends to be there as well? Okay, so keep that in mind. You have time between now and then. You have relationships none of us have. We can advertise through the website. We can advertise through this. We can advertise on the radio or TV, whatever. They're not going to connect to those friends that you know. So if you believe that the forum and the Advance is a great way for those men to be impacted, to take it back to their communities, invite them. They might say no. That's fine. That's fine. I was just talking to Rob. I said, if I want to try to get 10 churches involved in something, I invite 20. There's 36 men who said they would be here. I invited a lot more than 36. But they weren't just because they're breathing. They were qualified men. But I knew if I wanted 35 or whatever, I better invite 40 to 50. Okay. All right. So casting vision, and I'll talk to you about an open chair here in a minute, and being a greeter at a door. So one of the things I learned as a teacher, school teacher, is if I'm at the door saying good morning or good afternoon to my students, it makes a world of difference. This is the first year I did it. I've been teaching for 25 years. I'm a moron. So I didn't do that before. I didn't do that. Other teachers have, and I said, you know what? I'm going to try that. And you know some of the kids' comments there? Mr. Brooke's nicer this year. Why? You greet us at the door. That makes me nicer? Yeah. Can you explain that? No. Okay? But I'm literally at the door, holding the door open and saying, good morning, Junior. Good morning, Trinity. Good morning, whoever. Or good afternoon. Some get knuckles, some get handshakes, some get a high five, and then we get all creative kind of things. Okay? But greet them at the door. So my suggestion is, when you are at your breakout groups, greet them at the door. Make them welcome. You meet them right in the hallway and say, yes, this is room 106, or yes, this is 202. Welcome. My name is, what's your name? Okay? So let's put a couple scenarios. I want to give you guys, so Larry, Wayne, Josh, will you guys come up, please? Pick a chair wherever you want. All right. So I'm going to put us in a scenario. I'm going to give each one of these guys a role. So what I want you guys is we're going to ad-lib. We're just going to role play, etc. And I want you guys to notice there's an empty chair. Anybody have an idea what the empty chair is for? That's right. I would encourage you guys to have at least one empty chair to just symbolize there's somebody we have yet to invite. Someone we should invite next week to fill this chair. Try to have always at least one empty chair just to have that as a symbol of we have somebody to invite. Okay, so let's do our first one. So there's a couple things we could do when there's a dominant conversation. One, as a facilitator, if that happened for the second time, next time I wouldn't say anybody else, I would specifically say, Larry, do you have some thoughts? That kind of thing. Or if Josh and I are the facilitators, we're the partners, one way you guys can do this is one's a secret facilitator. So if I'm the facilitator and Josh is a secret facilitator that no one else in the breakout group knows, Josh can head him off and say, you know what, that's very interesting, Wayne. But James, what was that question again? So that comes up. So basically the facilitator saves face, but the secret facilitator kind of railroads that dominant speaker. Now the problem with the secret facilitator is if the main facilitator is absent, then all of a sudden secret facilitator is the main one. So you may not be secret forever, but it is a very effective way to head off rabbit trails and dominant conversations by allowing the facilitator to do their job if you're the secret facilitator. That make sense? So those are just 2 suggestions. There's many more that, and actually I'd be open. Does anybody else have a suggestion how you would handle someone who's dominant in a breakout group?
It's a guy who's never been to the men's forum before. He might have some things he wants to get off his chest. So a guy, you may think that the guy's being trying to be dominant, and with the conversation and stuff. But sometimes guys just need to talk because they don't have anybody. They've never really had anybody they could share stuff with. So I think you have to use some discernment there. Yeah.
Yeah, and what Wayne he was talking about himself. That was a big difference than someone saying, you know what, I'm in this trouble, etc. Yeah.
Or you could come down and just say, we can carry this on when we get done. You and I, after the meeting gets done, you and I can go outside. We can talk about this more.
Yeah. Let me give you another opportunity to continue. Yeah. Excellent. Any other thoughts? Okay. Now the complete opposite, which I think most guys have the most difficult with, is when the group's completely silent. Okay? So we're all silent. Okay? All right. So, he was talking about Heart Fully Alive and how that would impact our community. So give me an example how that, if your heart was fully alive, how that can impact a community. That's hard, isn't it? That's really hard for a facilitator. That 30 seconds feels like 3 hours. I'm planning it. It feels like eternity up here. Okay? That personally, I think most facilitators have the hardest time with silence. But here is my encouragement. If they are not talking, give yourself 30 seconds. Literally count 30 seconds in your head before you say anything. 30 seconds, just 1, 2, in your head. Give them the opportunity. That's a long time for a group to be silent. Someone will probably speak up. Now, again, that's where a secret facilitator can speak to chime in. Now, the secret facilitator shouldn't chime in at 10 seconds. They're letting the other people chime in, be a part. But if it's at 20 seconds, 25, they're counting in their head too, they might chime in and say, well, yeah, let me talk about that a little bit. And a lot of times, that's all you need. Someone to be brave enough to start. And hopefully the outlines you're going to get will have some warm-up activities, some real generic questions that the first week or two. They'll break those ice, break those barriers down. Then after a while, we found the icebreakers weren't even needed anymore. You said, well, I don't even need them. We're ready to go right away. Wow, that's very cool. Okay, so don't let the silence break you or concern you. So there are some things you can do about it, but count 30 seconds. Did you have something to add to that?
Well, as the weeks go on and you get into week 3, week 4, sometimes that silence can increase because if they have began to speak, week 2, and you ask them a difficult question, that uncomfortable silence can draw out of them the thing they really don't want to talk about, and it'll finally pop. So as the weeks increase, that length of time, 30 seconds, can increase.
We'll go back to the discernment. Other thoughts, comments, suggestions?
As you were just pointing out the discernment for the person who talks too much, you also need to use discernment for maybe somebody's really shy and embarrassed.
For the guys to have a conversation about, but they're going to get deep. You'll probably have 10 to 12 questions every week. Don't feel like you have to go through all of them. If you get through one question and you had that kind of conversation, wow. If you get through 5 of them and you ran out of time, awesome. If you go through all 10, then great. We're going to try to give you more information than you'll ever need. But don't feel like you get, okay, you know what, we talked 30 seconds, question number 2. Cut, question number 3. Don't ever feel like that. You go until that conversation is done. You feel like you've what's that word? You fleshed it out, and now you're going to the next question. But you go through one question, that's great. Don't ever feel like you have to get through the whole outline. The outline is just there as a guide for you, to give you material, a guideline for you to go. All right, so let's try one more. How about Larry? Someone who just loves to take a rabbit trail down off topic again and again and stuff. So you're the rabbit trail guy, okay? Like you don't know how to do that, okay? Okay, so we were hearing the pastor share about that it takes time, discipline, and sacrifice to be able to serve, to be fully alive. Now, what does that mean? What does time, sacrifice, service mean to you?
To me, I know you take time out to, go to McDonald's, go to McDonald's and spend time with your kids. But sometimes the kids they want to go play and so that gives me time. I can go look on my iPad and look at my iPad and oh, by the way, there's some pretty cool trucks on there that I saw that I'd like to get.
I have my mind too.
Yeah.
So back to the time and sacrifice. What is it that you're trying to share with us?
What was the question again?
Love you. So there's a lot of ways we can handle a rabbit trailer. A lot of it, again, I love the secret. I actually personally love being the secret facilitator, to bring that back, say, Larry, that's really interesting about the iPad, but Josh, what was that question again? Because then if someone's going to be the bad guy, it will be me and not the facilitator. But you can redirect it and say, okay, I understand time, so what about the sacrifice part? You could redirect them that way. Or, thank you very much, very much. Wayne, what do you think? You can go to the next person as well. So thoughts, other suggestions, comments that you find very effective for a group that goes rabbit trail. And I'll tell you, Christian and I are one of the greatest rabbit trailers there is, so I understand that. We are facilitators, and we rabbit trail constantly. Yes, Gary.
Couple of thoughts. Setting down kind of the ground rules in the beginning and having everybody respect each other's integrity and each other's time, that goes a long ways. One comment I was going to make earlier on the silent folks is call them out by name, and Dwayne, what do you think? Josh, what do you think? Larry, what do you think? Or sometimes just go in order around the room to start with, they know that they're coming up next, so they're thinking about an answer rather than not participating at all.
And this is what I mean by you guys are going to know your groups better than anybody. And that's why no one's going to micromanage you. The first week, you're not going to know them very well, so you're going to have to use a lot more discernment. But as you get to know them, you're going to say, I know I can call on so-and-so. I know I can do the round table. I can use popcorn, whatever. You are going to know your group extremely well, and you'll be able to tweak how you're going to lead it, how you're going to facilitate it. Okay? All right, let's do just one more. Well, actually, for time, let's go ahead. Let's give these guys a round of applause for coming up here. Give it back to them. Thanks, guys. That was hard. All right, questions, Q&A, questions about that? Yes, John. We typically have lanyards where you have your name. So whatever the theme, there will be a picture behind it, and then we'll have your names on there. Say again. Yeah, we kind of shied away from name tags. Just so it kind of creates a ability to kind of feel safe. I can be revealed when I'm ready. If I have a name tag, maybe I'm a little bit more approached than I want to. We're reaching all kinds of men from all different walks of life, different steps in their journey. So it's not that we're against name tags. We just kind of have shied away from them at this point. The facilitators, you will have lanyards, and you'll be wearing them through the advance as well. And by the way, make sure you do sign-ups because you guys will get a T-shirt that will stand out. Oh, I forgot to ask. The groups are going to have the advanced T-shirts are red with yellow on it, and they're going to be on charcoal. They stand out pretty well, men's advance. For you guys, we want a different color. So you are not elitist or anything other than you are a go-to person. I have a question. I need an answer. I go to this color shirt. So it's the red with the yellow. You guys have a preference. We talked about black. We talked about blue. And my personal favorite, camo. If it's available. But what do you guys feel? What would your preference be? Let me just kind of get a poll because you guys are the ones going to be wearing it. Salmon. Yeah. I'll throw one in for Josh. Okay. Okay. So then we'll probably be, because it's red with yellow, so we can't have red shirt, etc. And yellow, white, those are not going to be good colors at a camp. So blue or black probably are our two. Okay, from an expert's point of view, camel's a bad idea, so we'll go away with that. So what do you guys think, blue or black? It'll be two colors because we got to save money. It's the same print, so it's red with yellow on top of it. So the red is the outside, and yellow on top of the red. So I heard black mostly. Black? Black. Okay, we'll go with black. Thank you. So I just did a rabbit trail. See, I told you I'm bad about that. Okay, so any questions, comments on that? The cool thing is you guys are going to get about 45 minutes with your breakout group, which you might think is, wow, that's a lot of time. But we get year after year, survey, more time. Well, okay, if we have a 2-hour forum with worship, a message, well, 45 minutes is a big chunk of time. So we really can't expand that without sacrificing something else, which are critical parts too. But I think that's amazing when they say, we want more. Guys who don't like to talk, guys who don't want to break down their barriers, say, I'd like to have more time. You guys are doing great. What you're volunteering to do is awesome because you're giving them the opportunity to say, I want more of this. I want more of this authentic and real time to share with other guys. We're going to have less groups this year because we had 17 in the past and we had groups of 4. So we're going to have 12 groups. So you should have a solid 10. Yeah, and we're going to have to play that one by ear. So if we start getting groups that are really we're starting to bust out the seam, that's a good problem to have. Then I might take, if you have 3 facilitators in your group, I might take one from yours and one from there. Those are partners, and we've got a new group going. Okay, it's not as fluid because now we broke that group up a little bit, but that's one of the things we have to do with birthing, etc. Well, I don't want to get down to 2 or etc. Well, let me retract that. I would encourage you guys, if you're in a group, so for example, we did shrink the number of groups to 12, so we should have more guys in the group. But let's just say the scenario is that we have 200 guys the first week and it dwindles down to 100 guys the 5th week. Let's just say that scenario. And you have, say, 3 guys in your group. What opportunity would you have to spend 45 minutes with 2 other guys or 3 other guys? How much more time and personal could you get with 2 or 3 other guys? How much more impact you could have with only 2 or 3 guys? So maybe the enemy kind of made them tired and nutrition kind of went downhill, or maybe God's fingerprints all over it. Or if it is the enemy attacking those guys that are not coming back, God uses it for his glory. Maybe you're going to impact that gentleman's life that you would not have been able to if there was 10. So don't be discouraged. It's not you. It's not you. understand who we're dealing with. We're dealing with men. Okay? So they get things in their minds, and then they start to make different decisions. I hope we go from 200 to 300, 350 guys by the end. We don't lose men, we gain. That's my prayer. I hope that's your prayer. Again, every number is a name. But don't be discouraged with how many guys you have in your group. Okay? You could always say, we are a group of 4 and they're a group of 4. Let's put our 2 groups together, and now we're group 8. You could do that too. So we'll play those kind of things by ear, how we grow or shrink, etc. But, if I had a group of 2 or 3, I'd be praying, okay, God, what do you want with this? How can we take full advantage of this? What do you have in mind? And then, boom, dive in. It might be the best group you've ever had. All right, so everyone has a little card. That card, or that little tab, is your room number you just picked. I'm trusting God's fingerprint on it. You're partnered with 1 or 2 other guys with that room number. There's a map on the table when you came in if you need to find where that is. The 200s are up here, and the 100s are here. Well, you go to that room, find your room, find out who your partner is, and then come back and sit next to your partner or partners. And so get up, get stretched. You guys have been sitting a long time. Go ahead and find your room, find out who your partner or partners are, and then come back and sit with them. And maybe 15 more minutes, then I'm going to let you guys go. So the reason we wanted to have this training so early was not just to give you the information, because we could give you that on the 7th. 8th. Jeez Louise. On January 8th. We wanted this early so you have time to spend time with your partner. How much better would your group be coming into the forum with your friend, not a stranger? How much better would you impact and serve those men with your warrior buddy, not someone that you just met and you know they're a follower of Christ, but you don't know them? That's a tough partnership to have on the first day. So we wanted this early. So 1, you have time to build a relationship with each other, get to know each other, have coffee. Your wives can meet each other. Your kids can meet each other. Go play curling with each other. Is that even possible in this area? Okay. Spend time. Get to know each other. That when you come in, you guys are side by side, iron sharpened iron kind of warriors, and your group will benefit from it. Okay? And your families could benefit from it, in your neighborhoods, etc. I'll keep going that. It will impact more than you and your wife and your children. Your relationships will impact this whole community if we just get involved. So spend this time between now and the forum to get to know each other. We used to, when we were smaller, we had that where you drew names. And when you drew a name, this name was the person you went and found and had a conversation with sometime during the weekend. Someone drew your name. So through the whole weekend, you had 2 meaningful conversations in addition to the ones that you just started up. But they were very purposeful. I drew John. I go, fine, who's John? Oh, you're John? Okay. And I go, tell me about yourself, John. And those are the ones that we saw, fingerprints. Yeah, I needed to talk to this guy, and he drew my name. Oh, what's up with that? And we're going, yeah, that sounds like God, And you go, really? So we have these, and I'm going through this situation. My marriage is falling apart, and I drew the guy's name, or he drew my name, and he went through the exact same thing. And he told me exactly what I needed to hear. If that's not God's fingerprint in it, there's no planning on our part could ever do that. Okay? So, when we got 370, we're looking for 500 men this year. We can't do that. There's just no way. How are you going to find 500 a name out of 500? So in your breakout groups, each of you are going to have your own breakout group with an apprentice. Okay, you will have them write their names on a piece of paper, and they'll draw within that group. So Rob will have a group. Robin will have a group. You'll have, say, 20 guys in your group. You will have them write down names on 20 pieces of paper, 1 per paper. You put it in a bucket, have them draw, and Ralph picks Steve, and Steve picks Bob, and etc. And you encourage them sometime this weekend. That name you drew, find them. They're in this group. They're not in another group. They're in this group. Find that guy. have a conversation. Who drew your name? Conversation. So the same impact can happen, but now it's a feasible way of doing it instead of trying to find out of 500 guys. Guys will come in, sign in. There'll be a map like you saw on the table, but on the other side will be the agenda for the night. 6:45 for snacks, 7 o'clock announcements, 7:05 worship. Kind of go through the whole night, etc. On there will be a room assignment, 106, 201, whatever. So when they grab an agenda, they got the group. Next guy will grab it, next guy will grab it, and it'll be just basically we're allowing God to put his fingerprint that these guys will fill it, and hopefully you won't have any duplication in a church. You won't have 2 AC3s or 2 turning points or whatever. You'll have a diversity of just like this group. We're really diversified in this group, and that's the way your breakout groups should be as well. So that's how it will happen on that night. But we are going to encourage them to stay in those groups through the 5 weeks so that they start to build trust and safety, because they change every week. It's like first week all over again. So they're going to be encouraged to stay in their groups all 5 weeks. New names, which we hope will happen, they'll get a draw from the thing, and we'll keep adding to various groups. They'll just draw out of the pile that hasn't been drawn yet. Okay? So those are that's going to happen. One thing we were not going to do is etch that in stone. My son's with me, and I really would like him to be in my breakout group, and he got a different one. Yes, take your son with you. This is he's my co-worker. He doesn't know anybody here. Can he be in the same group with me? Okay, that's fine. We're not going to push the point. But we're going to try to really encourage the guys to do it. Now, how many of you experienced that here? Okay, keep your hand up if you thought that was a blessing. Okay. Guys at first going, man, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. But they really enjoy it by the end of the 5 weeks. Okay? All right, any other questions, thoughts, comments?